Hey guys, good morning. Again, it is quarter to 12, 11:48 a.m. on Friday, June 3rd, 2022. And I hope you had a great week, and bringing you yet another video. And this is kind of completely different. And it's something that I just started playing around with, so I don't really have any real statistics or input on this yet. It's just something I'm just starting to play around with. So I'm going to just do this a little bit introductory. I'm hoping to try to keep this as short as possible. I may have to just split this up because this probably requires a little bit more explanation. But I wanted to talk about using footprint charts or cluster charts, depending what you call them. It's the same thing. To potentially use in your trading. Now, let me just say just quickly on the surface, what footprint charts and cluster charts attempt to do is look inside the candle. So when you see a regular candle, right, you're seeing it go up and down, but you don't really know inside of each one of these candles, like, what is the order flow. So clusters attempt to use volume and order flow to kind of tell you, what's really happening inside each one of these candles, okay, which you don't get just looking at a candlestick chart, okay. And as I've mentioned before, in Forex, in the spot Forex market, which is, what I trade primarily, there is no real volume, okay, because Forex, as I mentioned, is a decentralized market. So if you put a volume indicator on your chart, you're not really seeing market volume. You're seeing basically what's happening with your broker, and it's basically just tick volume. It's not really showing you market volume. If you use a volume indicator on like a stock or an index or a futures contract or anything like that, now you're getting true volume because those are more centralized through exchanges, so it can read the volume happening throughout the exchange, so it gives you a much better view. But in Forex, you don't really have that. And so it's really tough to use volume at all in Forex. Okay, you really don't have a lot to go on other than price action and fundamentals and indicators. Okay, you don't have that order flow, true order flow, because, again, you're not seeing the whole market. No matter what you put on your chart, no matter what software you use, you are not seeing the whole market. Okay, and it's just the nature of how Forex works. But there is a way that you can do this, which is what I'm going to show you, and get true volume of the underlying market, if only for a handful of pairs. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, so this platform, this is a MetaTrader 5 platform, and I signed up. This is AMP Futures. So, this is AMP Futures. You can't really see my screen, but so I'm in the United States. So AMP Futures, ampfutures.com is a broker, and they basically are brokers for all kinds of all kinds of different markets. They have for financial markets like e-futures, stock indices. They're basically currencies. Now these are just the spot currencies. These aren't pairs, but they do have some pairs. You can see right here. They do have a handful of pairs that you can trade. And now these are futures. This is not spot Forex. These are futures. But this is what we're going to focus on, are these right here. And they have energies and metals and treasury notes and blah blah blah, grains and softs, things like that. So this is a futures broker. Okay, so I basically signed up for a demo account, downloaded their MetaTrader 5 because you have to use MT5 with this software I'm going to show you. So anyway, so this is a MetaTrader 5 platform. Underneath, if I minimize this, you can see underneath this is just a regular, MetaTrader 5 chart. Okay, but we're going to look at the cluster chart, which is a software overlay. Okay, and now I'll talk about what market this is. So There are probably different places you can get this software. So I just will show you that I got it on MQL5.com. This is basically the marketplace for MetaTrader. There's a marketplace for MT4 and MT5. So this is the MetaTrader 5. This software is not available, at least by this author, for MT4, only for MT5. So I went to MetaTrader 5, MQL5.com, and you go to Marketplace, okay, and then you search this. And again, guys, I'm not an affiliate. I have nothing to do with this, but it's YU Clusters, and YU is I think the first couple letters of the author's last name, the guy who created this. Now this is not, because it's Yuri Kulikov is the guy's name. It has really good ratings, so you can download a demo version of it to put on your chart. It only works on a demo account. I don't know how it knows, but if you try to load this demo version onto a live chart, it won't work. So you can download the demo version. It has a few limitations, but it allows you to play around with it for the most part. Same thing the live version does. And there's some explanation. There's some tells you how to use it, and you can go to the comment section. And I did actually leave several questions, and this guy does get back to you pretty quick, certainly within 24 hours, usually less. He'll answer you, and he was really helpful because this was kind of new to me. So there might be other versions of these footprint charts. If you go on YouTube and search footprint charts, you're going to find all kinds of videos with people, showing them. I don't know where else people get this software from, but I don't think anywhere you get it from, you're going to get it for free. You're going to have to pay for it no matter what. So for this guy, I thought it was pretty now I bought a 1 month access because I don't know if I'm going to keep it long term, but it was $30 for a month. If I want to buy the lifetime license, it's $225, which, if it ends up being useful, is really not bad. But I rented it for a month for $30, so I've got another three weeks or so to play around with it. Okay. So it's called, again, U Clusters. Again, I have nothing to do with that. And if you can find one somewhere else, just go for it. The problem is you got to find something that's compatible with MetaTrader if that's what you're using. But I know there are other platforms out there, like NinjaTrader, Sierra Charts, TradingView, and I'm sure there are versions of it you can put on those charts. But I still primarily am using MetaTrader. I'm kind of old-fashioned in that respect because I just don't need all the fancy stuff that comes with those other charts for the way I trade. So this ends up being fine, and I just have a real high comfort level with MetaTrader. Okay, so that's where I got the software from. Just wanted to get that out of the way. But again, you can probably find competing versions that you can use on other platforms. Maybe it's built into your platform. If you're using something other than MetaTrader, you'll have to investigate that. Okay, but for MetaTrader, you have to use MT5, not MT4. So fortunately, AMP Futures, that I talked about, they do offer MT5. So I just downloaded their MetaTrader 5 platform. I opened a demo account, and this is what I found. Okay, and like I mentioned, they have these. Where is it? So they have these. Now these, like I said, you can trade these if you are a futures trader. You can trade these live on their platform as futures. But basically, what I'm doing is, but these are traded on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the CME is the exchange. This is a centralized exchange. And the price movement on these is exactly the same as the spot market. So this is the Aussie dollar. So this futures Aussie dollar is going to have the same price, and it's going to move the same way as the normal Aussie dollar that you would look at on your Forex chart. So, but because it's a centralized market, you will get actual underlying volume and order flow using, if you put that clusters software on these charts, as opposed to putting it on your spot Forex chart, where you're only going to get tick volume from your broker. So this is much different. So you kind of have to maintain two platforms because I have not chosen to trade live on AMP Futures. I may at some point open a live account with them and fund it and maybe try to trade these live instead of trading it on the spot market. I don't know. But right now I'm just using these as reference charts. So we're going to look at Aussie dollar, pound dollar, and euro dollar. And you can see here they do have dollar CAD, dollar yen, and dollar Swiss, but you can see they're inversed. And that's because these are exchange traded. So they're as the US dollar is the base currency, so that's why they have to put these first. So of course in the spot market it's dollar CAD, it's not CAD dollar, and it's dollar yen and it's dollar Swiss. So you can certainly look at these two, you just have to remember it's going to be mirror opposite of what's on the spot chart. Okay, so it's a little confusing for these three. But so for now we're just going to look at Aussie dollar, pound dollar, euro dollar, because these are all traded in the same format. Okay, and again, these are the futures contracts for these pairs. And if you have a live futures account, you can actually trade these straight up. But you can also, use these with the cluster charts that I'll show you, the footprint chart, to kind of get an analysis of what's going on underneath for order flow and volume, and then just take the trades on your regular Forex account. Because you're going to see the price is exactly the same, the movement's the same on the candles. It's just, you just have a better, deeper analysis here. And I'll show you what it looks like on the charts. So if we come back over, and I have this, now I'm not going to get into how I set this up. There's a million ways to set these things up. Okay, now I'll blow this up a little bit here. Basically what you're looking at inside these, so this is a 30-minute cluster chart. So each one of these represents 30 minutes. It's basically like a 30-minute candlestick chart. And what you're looking at here is actual volume and order flow within these candles. So these numbers basically, now I have it set to what they call delta, which is basically just showing the difference. So if we just take this one right here, this was basically a red candle. You can see this red candle on the side here. And basically because we had more selling volume here, it's telling you where all the sellers are. Okay, it's telling you how many people were selling. These are the actual contracts, these numbers. You don't really particularly need those. I'm looking more at just the overall where it ended up, and just looking at what's happening above and below it. So, but again, this is basically your open, high, your low, and close. This is basically a red candle. And if you looked at the underlying candlestick chart and you looked at this time period, which was this 8:30 candle here, you would see you would basically see the same thing, but you don't see the detail inside the candle. And then at the bottom here, we've got all these. These are volume. And again, these are actual bid and ask volumes based on this market. So again, this is true volume. And basically the way I set this up is to see it side by side. So the red is basically your bids and the blue is your ask. So basically your sellers and your buyers in a simplistic term. Okay. And you can zoom this in and out if you don't really care about seeing the numbers. But when you get out this far, then it just looks like regular candlesticks, and it's not particularly helpful. I want to at least be able to see what's going on inside of here a little bit, even if I don't zoom in enough to see the actual numbers. Okay? All right. So, and then what you have over here is the depth of market. This is real time, so this is the current candle, and this is real time, and it's just basically showing you, where most of the orders are, and you can see it's always in the middle. You're going to have kind of the fair balance, and then, out at the extremes is where all the buying and selling pressure is. Okay, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We're just going to worry about how you can use this to predict where it's going, even if you're day trading. Now, I've tried this on a 10-minute, 15-minute, and 30-minute chart. I find the 10 and the 15 to be a little bit too noisy, so the 30-minute is actually better. Now, some people may say, "Oh, that's too long of a time frame for." It's certainly too long for scalping, but for day trading, I don't think it's too long at all, especially if you're using this the right way. So we're going to leave it on a 30-minute, and I'm not going to again go into how I set this up. There's different ways you can set these cluster charts up. A lot of it's personal preference on just what you like to see, but this is how I chose to do it. And again, I'm still learning how to use this. All right, so let's go to the beginning of the New York session. And what we're looking at here, by the way, this is the euro dollar. Okay, this code is the market symbol for the euro dollar. Okay, you can see there, E micro euro dollar. This is the June contract because these are futures, but this is the only one they have up there right now. And when this one expires, they'll post another one, and I'll have to just change the symbol out. So anyways, so this is euro dollar. So let's go back to yesterday. Now on this broker, 12 o'clock is the New York Open. Okay, on my broker it's 10 o'clock on my Forex broker, but on here it's 12. Okay, so here was your New York Open right here, coming out of London. Okay, and you can see we opened with a small green candle, pretty low volume. Okay, and then the very next candle, we had this pretty big explosive bullish candle. You can see the volume really spiked up. Now there was a lot of selling here too, but we finished positive. You can see all these sellers, see these red bars, and then you have some little blue bars here. But there was more buyers here than sellers. Okay, so it was kind of a sideways candle, but it was positive, and the sellers tried to step in and push this thing down. Okay, and then you can see volume dropped off for these next two candles. And remember I said on a previous video, when you day trade, sometimes you want to wait like an hour into the New York session to kind of set the table for the day. And this is what I mean. You'll have that initial move when New York opens, and then price will tend to just not do anything for maybe 30 to 60 minutes, maybe 90 minutes. You'll generally tend to see a lot of sideways movement. And that's what we had here, low volume. We had a bullish candle followed by a bearish one. This is sellers trying to come in and push it down, but you can see the volume was pretty low, and that's one of the advantages that this has. So let me put a line here. Oops, no, I didn't want to do that. I'm still learning how to use this thing, guys. Well, anyways, it's this candle right here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so we can see the okay. So here are those candles. So again, this was the New York Open right here. Okay, and you can, again, if I zoom in, you can see, I know these numbers are probably really hard to see, but this is just showing you volume, okay, inside the candle. So this is showing actual orders, buys and sells inside this candle. All right, then we move sideways, we have pretty low volume. Okay, then the next candle comes out, and the selling volume rises, but the candle still closes positively. You see there's a lot of sellers. So the sellers are trying to take hold all in this 2-hour period here. The sellers are trying to take hold. Okay, and then the next candle opens, and again we have pretty low volume, but again it's bullish, and then finally it kicks in. So, but basically the trend for the day is started right around the first open, the first two candles, that first hour kind of sets the trend for the day, and then it just kind of goes up, and this is the end of the New York session up here. And that's about it. Then the market just kind of moves sideways the rest of the day. Okay, so this is the end of New York right here. But this trend, and you can see as the session goes on and after London closes, see how the volume just drops off just down to nothing, because once London closes, this is showing you actual volume just kind of drops off. But this is the ship on the sea analogy I like to say. So if you were on a boat out on the ocean, right, and you had your engines going, you would crank it in one direction, and then you just cut the engines, right? Well, what's going to happen? Well, you're just going to drift for a while in that same direction. Okay, ideally, you're just going to keep drifting, and that's what happens here, right? So the trend is set for even though London closes, the market direction is kind of set for the day, and it just keeps going up. All right, so that's the euro. So let's look at the Aussie dollar. And this is kind of the same thing. So let me go back here. So here's your New York Open right here, 12 o'clock. You can see the volume, initially runs up a little bit. Again, all right, 12 o'clock. Then this is the next candle. And you can see, again, same kind of scenario. where there's higher buy volume, but the sellers do try to step in here too. And you can see now you have all of these. This is where the bulk of the trading happened inside here. So all of these sellers, these are net sellers in here, right at the top. They try to sell this off. All these red, these are sellers. Now there's some buyers in here too, but for the sellers now, so they get in short right here. So on the next candle, they're still in profit, right? So they think, okay, well, this is great. So they got in somewhere in here. The next candle opens, and you can see it closed up higher, but just barely. And we had a lot of selling going on here. And we look down at the volume. The volume has dropped again, especially the buy volume. But the sell volume has not increased. It's pretty much the same as where we were before. So now you've got more sellers have come in. So now these people are all short, and then you've got these people short up here. Next candle opens. You can see the volume really drops low this time. And this is, again, a lot of selling in here. So now you've got these sellers in here have a little bit of profit. These sellers in here are basically a break even, and these sellers down here are now in a small loss, based on where this candle closed. Then the next candle comes out, and now you can see the bullish momentum starts coming back in. Still a lot of selling, right? But see, the selling volume is not keeping up, and we're still closing positive. Okay, and then the next candle comes out, and boom, now we have this huge buying pressure. And this was kind of set the stage way back here earlier at 12 o'clock when the market opened. It just, it's this, like I mentioned, a lot of times you're going to get this sideways action for an hour, hour and a half, as the bulls and the bears kind of fight it out for direction. But the table was pretty much already set earlier in the session. And so now this candle closes. Okay, so now all the sellers basically from basically below here, all these sellers now are in a loss, varying amount of loss. Not a ton, but they're in losing positions. These sellers over here and over here are still holding on to very small profits. And the next candle comes out and it's higher again. Now all these people that sold, if any of these sellers are still in their positions here, they're all in loss right now, or break even, maybe barely break even. But they're all in loss. And so then the market just goes up, and we see volume again, just like we saw in the euro-dollar spike, and then the market just goes up and up and up, and then gets to the end of the session and starts moving sideways. All right? So you get the general hint of this, guys. So what this, there's two advantages to looking at this. Is one, it gives you the actual real volume bars down here, which you're not going to get on any volume indicator on your spot chart. Okay, so this is actual bid and ask volume, and then that's translated inside these candles too. This is just another way of looking at it. The numbers here really are not important, which, like I said, I'm just showing you these are contracts, but you can, if you wanted to zoom out a little bit and just not really be bothered with the numbers, you could zoom your candles out just a tiny bit. And you can kind of, depending how you want to adjust the chart, you can still see the action. But I mean, the numbers are fine, but I wouldn't get hung up on the numbers. It's just to show you what the actual, but it is pretty cool to see the actual buying and selling going on inside the candles. Okay. But what I'm really looking at are these histograms in the candle. Is there more buying? Is there more selling? Are traders getting trapped inside? In this case, they're getting trapped. This is the New York session again, starting right here, right? So you have this initial up move, and then they try to sell, and then the market goes up. So now it traps all of these shorts into losing positions, and then they start to maybe have stop losses hit or just close their positions, and that's just going to drive the momentum up even further. Okay? So what I like to do with this, what I'm experimenting with, is watching, okay, what's the initial hit coming out of when the New York session opens? Where's the volume? Does price kind of set the direction? In this case, it does. We have, bullish volume, not a ton, but bullish volume, and a pretty strong bullish candle. And then I expect kind of counter trend or even sideways movement for probably an hour or so after that. And then after that, I expect whatever that trend that was set here to continue. So it's just a different way of looking at it, guys. I'm not 100% convinced that I'm going to maintain this long term, because it does add additional layers of analysis into it. But what I really like, I wish I could, just take this volume indicator and just move it over to my MetaTrader spot Forex account. I just think this alone would be a big advantage because it's showing actual volume. And so when you see these pullbacks like this, right, you're like, uh-oh, is the market going to roll over and go down? Well, no, it's not. It's just because you can see the volume drops off. So this is just telling you that it's just a corrective thing because there's no real active selling in here. Okay, the sellers are trying, but the volume is very low. The direction is still up. The momentum is still positive. Okay, it's kind of the opposite. Like over here, you had this big selling pressure right here, and then you can see a couple of green candles, but look at how low the volume is. It didn't really change the direction, and then the price just continues down. With the bearish action that was already set right here. Okay, so this was this morning actually. This was non-farm payroll that came out for the U.S. dollar this morning, and this is basically what happened, and it was positive news for the dollar. So we had this initial bearish candle. You can see buyers tried to step in down here. There's still a lot of selling, but you had buyers step in down here. It drifted up. You can see the volume really dropped off. You had that big spike of negative volume here. And then they tried to drive the market up. They got in long. Okay, and then there was a lot of buying in here, and then the downtrend continued. So now, basically, at this point over here, all these traders that were short all in here are either at break even or all in loss now, okay, because the downtrend just kept going. Okay, and then we saw the volume spike up again on these moves down. So that's basically what it is, guys. So just a different way of looking at it. They're called footprint charts or cluster charts. Again, if you go on YouTube and search it, you're going to find a lot of people making videos on these, and their charts might look completely different. But at the end of the day, what it's showing you, it's just looking inside each candle, and it's showing you the real orders, assuming that you're not using spot Forex. It's showing you the real orders that are in the market. Okay, and it's showing you actual volume. Okay, and it's even having, most of these have a depth of market. Showing you kind of where the extremes of the buys and sells are. I don't really like this depth of market. It really should cover this whole area, but it only is contained inside this small area. It'll move with the price, but so I'm not real big on this. But this just shows that there's probably a bunch of sell orders sitting down here. If price gets down here, probably will drive it lower. Okay, that's really what this is telling you. And there's a bunch of buy orders sitting up here. So if price comes back up to here, it could potentially trigger buy orders and drive the price higher. But as long as it's staying inside of here, then really the trend that's in place is probably going to continue. So, all right. So I'll leave it there for now, guys. I think what I'll probably do is continue looking at this a couple of days next week. And I'm only using it right now on the Aussie dollar, the euro dollar, and the pound dollar. Those three. Those are the three I'm going to limit it to right now, which is fine. That's 3 pairs. It's perfectly fine. They're all dollar pairs, which is unfortunate. But because the CME is a U.S. exchange, it's only going to have dollar pairs attached to it. So, all right. So footprint charts, cluster charts. Check it out. Like I said, this starts delving into more of a where you have to actually pay money because you're going to have the software. But it is something to consider and look at. It's pretty interesting. Like I said, ultimately, I'm not sure if it's going to be something I'll stay with long term, but I am going to experiment with it a little bit, and we'll see how it goes. All right, guys, so any questions, comments, concerns, as always, leave them down in the comments. Make sure you hit that like button, please. And if you just find the channel, subscribe in the lower right-hand corner and hit the bell notification icon below so you get notified when I make a new video. And we will be in touch real soon. Have a good weekend, guys. I'll talk to you all soon.